Hello and welcome back to Mandibil. And I just figured that Stefan Molyneux has in his latest plus 2,000 videos so far, 6,000 I think podcasts he has made in his career. So it's one a day, 1.5 hour long, a lot of rambling and not really doing much philosophy after all, right? You should think there should be a lot of good philosophy, at least some philosophy. It's far between, let's just say, where there might be something of some interest. And then you have to stitch all these little pieces together in order to have just a sliver of a chance of some coherent foundational philosophy, right? So everything blurs into a smoke and mirrors of some kind, right? Okay, so if there's something that Stefan Molyneux is not concerned about, it's rigidity. What he's concerned about is his business model, right? That's what I'm seeing. Okay, so in this video, there is a chapter called Defining Moral Principles. Now, I can only fabulate here, right? Maybe because I criticized his last video or commented at least where there was one guy asking questions about the 5 proofs, right? That I have just made a 1.5 hour criticizing in a few days back, right? So you can go and look at that. Criticizing his awful approach to describing his philosophy, create these particular 5 proofs. And then there's one guy who calls in asking about defining moral principles. And that's what I'm asking for in my video. Why don't you just define a moral principle? Or why don't your ethics seem to lead to a place where there's the last sentence that says, this is my moral principle? Maybe you need to go and tell me how to apply it, how in everyday circumstances, this is how you do it. This is how I would do it. Maybe you could say, right? I have this principle, then in this situation, based on all my prior philosophy, going way back to a reduction base and an ontology and a definition of knowledge and a definition of objectivity or whatever is needed, science and so on, before you define this, do the ethics and define the moral principle. You can't just throw some words up in the air and say 5 syllogisms, I proved it. There isn't even a moral principle in his book. He says it, as far as I remember, very clearly in the beginning. That's actually one of those things that are quite clear. This is just a framework for checking a moral statement, whether it's contradictory or not. Something along those lines. It's sort of a checkpoint that's if you come with something that he considers a moral statement that is not particularly well defined what that is, and maybe that's what the guy here asks for, right? That you can use UPB to check, is it okay? Is there something wrong with your statement? And it's usually something like, you can't say this is a rock and not a rock at the same time, right? If it's not okay to eat an apple in Los Angeles, why would it be, how did I phrase it? Not good to eat an apple in London. So if it's not good in Los Angeles, it cannot be good in London. So these kinds of contradictions that he appeals to, right? As a sort of a checkpoint for whether some kind of moral statement that is not clearly defined is actually winged off and says, okay, it's okay, you can go ahead using it, right? Now, this is a very, 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 very bad approach to ethics, in my opinion, right? Because it's just begging for somebody to sort of sophistically manipulate something that is going to move under the radar of UPB in order to go and be a functional moral statement that is not being catched by UPB, because UPB sucks, right? And it also only works for him in the sense that if it doesn't contradict anything in what he makes of moral statements, he's kind of justified in punching about and doing his lecturing and moralizing, right? Well, you can't find any problems in my statement. Okay, so it is an okay moral statement. This is the approach, and it is just about possibly the worst kind of approach to ethics, because it doesn't point out what it should be. It only points out what it shouldn't be. And you can't define something by what it isn't. You have to define things by what it is, right? So if you also have the idea that Stefan Molyneux seemed to have, that you can have all sorts of statements. Morality is just you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like 10 Commandments approach to things, right? And if he can't find any flaws in you shouldn't murder, if his ethics can't find a flaw in that in some way, it's an okay moral statement. And you can go around bossing people around on behalf of this statement. It's ridiculous, right? So maybe this guy has seen my videos and said, there's something to this. UPP doesn't give me a moral principle. It doesn't help me in any way I can see. It only sort of says, I made a statement that has some moral inklings, and I can't find any flaws in it, so it kind of must be okay because 5 syllogisms, right? No wonder people are fucking confused about this, right? His only saving grace is that people say, they throw in the towel and say, I don't understand this fancy, smart philosopher. He says he's basically the only philosopher in the world, so I have to trust that it's good. And he also does politics, right? And he is right-leaning, so I like his ethics. And he's also very fond of Christians all of a sudden, right? In the old days, he was kind of bashing them and telling how stupid it was and you should kill everybody according to the Bible. All of a sudden, he licks their ass like it's a piece of Nutella, right? Okay, so with that ranting out of the way, why don't we just jump into this minute 25 and 22, where he talks to that's all I've seen. I haven't heard it yet, so I have no clue what is going on, but I'm taking my chances here that there might actually be something interesting for us to delve into, right? And because it comes so shortly after the video I did that might have done its rounds all the way, maybe even to Mr. Molly himself, right? And you sit there and coughed up a hairball or something when you saw my video, right? A Nutella ball, right? So, Christian Nutella, right? So, I'm just jumping in and doing a live on what's it called? What would you call that? On the fly commenting on this, right? I haven't seen anything, but I heard the first bit. There was some guy who asked about this moral principle and so on, and we'll take it from there, right? But first of all, he says here in the description, philosopher Stefan Molyneux dismantles be nice to everyone. Okay, so it sounds like, oh, I have to dismantle criticism of my fancy philosophy, right? He's probably going to basically attack the dude, right? I would be surprised if he isn't. Maybe I should give it a like anyway. In this X space, so he's on X, arguing that virtue means truth. Okay? Honesty and moral courage, even when it sparks conflict, not politeness or appeasement. Well, I'm not going to be nice, right? I'm going to be very direct and critical and unpolite and non-appeasing. I'm going to give you my truth and my moral courage. But my courage is to call out bullshit when I see it, right? That's my kind of courage. So I hope you're listening, Stefan Molyneux, right? Because you're going to like this then. Okay, so I hope the audio level is okay when I start. By the way, I have put in a QR code so you can, just snap the phone and buy me a coffee if you think this is good stuff, right? So please support the channel. I'd like a bottle of wine now and then, right? So, and encouragement. It's nice to feel that people appreciate what you're doing, and it doesn't have to be if you want to send me $1,000 or euros, I'm not going to stop you, right? But a little here and little there is also okay. So don't be shy, right? I'm not going to eat you. Let's hit it.
When I say hello back, it means I can hear you. Go ahead. All right. Yeah. So my question is about identifying moral principles. I'm having a hard time identifying my own, but also with others. And so, in particular, I'm curious about this particular moral principle of being committed to being quote nice to people, polite, get along. So that's my question.
A moral principle called being nice to people and getting along?
I mean, it's not the worst I've heard, right? Being nice to people. So, yeah, but then his idea of universality kicks in here, right? Because then he said you have to be nice to everybody. What this guy is he's just saying, yeah, but this is what I've heard some people talk about as a moral principle. And now Stefan Molyneux is going to jump on him as if he has served him the ultimate moral principle of all time, right? And he's going to grind him down in the dirt, possibly, on this, because that's what the chapter was called, right? It was something defining moral principle, but he said, dismantles be nice. So instead of talking about the general purpose, he's just he can't read between the lines, this fucking moron, right? The guy's nervous and trying to say, okay, in order to illustrate what I mean is, there is somebody who says, be nice to everybody and so on, right? As an example of what he's talking about, but he's basically saying, well, I'm not sure what the hell a moral principle is and how to identify it. This is very, very, very important question. If Stefan Molyneux doesn't identify this and lift himself out of his own ass, right? He is a destructive factor in the idea of extending philosophy and maybe helping others doing it, because what he wants is sit there at the top of the pyramid and being the one ruling everything, where he's sort of identifying himself with philosophy, just like Jesus identified himself with a God, right? He thought that God was his father, the crazy bastard, right? Eating all that moldy bread makes you crazy, right?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes along with conformity or not upsetting people. I'm still trying to. I don't completely understand what a moral principle is.
That's very honest and open. He's begging, basically on his knees, Mr. Greatness, Mr. Syllogism, would you please give me help me understand what a fucking moral principle is, right? No. If Molyneux accepts the idea of a moral principle, it's the same as saying basically that his UPP book, it sucks ass, right? It's a Nutella book, right? It's like saying, yes, you need a moral principle, but you have to run it through my 300, 250 page book in order to figure out if it's okay. So whatever you can come up with is okay. What is difficult is checking if it's okay, right? Rather than taking the smart and functional route is go through all of your philosophy from A to C, right? It's like get into a reduction base and watch my video series called My Philosophy a few months back in order to get an idea of what I'm talking about. That ultimately crystallizes into a moral principle, right? That's what you want. You want a moral principle, but you can't just make up shit and then run it through the this manual called UPB on 250 pages in order to figure out if it's okay. And not least because it's so stupidly, awfully bad, right? So you have to do the job. You can't go halfway and say, okay, I leave it up to you to come up with some principles or some statements or whatever it is he's appealing to. So if he's accepting the idea of a moral principle, he's basically saying, I'm not doing the job. I want you to do it. So basically, people shouldn't call him about it. They should just say, I came up with this moral principle. Help me run it through UPB. Right? It's like he's a kind of Stasi censor on morality. He's the Stasi guy of morality. He doesn't want to come up with anything. He just want to have some system where he can bash somebody for not being universally preferable, right? So.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about being nice to people and getting along. Do you think that I try to get along with people and be nice?
So now he's strawmanning him right out of the gate, right? Do you think I am? Are you accusing me? Are you accusing me, Mr. Philosophy? Oh, man. This is like, not an open letter, but it's, what would you call that? Open psychology, where what his channel is about, it's about himself, because he's the biggest fucking self-absorbed narcissist you can find. Somebody who has written this book on ethics, right? Where people after 20 years have asked him about these so-called 5 proofs, right? And I've just pointed out, I have just in my recent video a few days ago, pointed out how ridiculously bad it is. It's worse than bad. It's like ramblings of a crazy person, right? And he defends it like it is defending his life. Rather than saying, maybe I could do a better job than this UPB shit, right? You know, wipe the board clean. Maybe get some help from somebody who can actually think. If you want to do some good shit, right? Stefan Molyneux should go and watch my philosophy series and tell me what's wrong with it. If he's so smart, why can't he make a video where he deconstructs my series? I would be happy for him to do that. Spend a few hours on that rather than, rambling about your own mentality. That doesn't help anybody in the end, right?
Nice to everyone.
I think you do, but I don't think you compromise your.
So, and this is typically Sophist trick, right? He wants to switch it around in order to get rid of this guy who, there's another caller now who asks questions about ethics and morality, right? He's sick and tired of people asking questions. Why don't you just bow in the dirt and accept that the philosopher has written a book and you have to just eat it as it is? That's your job, slave. I am Mr. Philosophy. Don't you know that? So he's switching it around so he can accuse him of attacking him, right? So, and you'll see that every time people ask questions about this shitty UPB, he switches it around so he can attack the caller and not answer the question. It's sort of a, what would you call that kind of fallacy? It probably has a name. It is a kind of strawmanning, right? Are you saying that I am? You dirty bastard, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. And then at the end of the day, he avoids actually answering the fundamental question. I bet you. Maybe I'm going to eat my words later, right? He's not going to answer the question fully or satisfactorily what is meant by a moral principle and how to get to it, because he doesn't do it himself in his book. So why would he all of a sudden have cocked up an idea about moral principles, right?
Your honesty, at least in terms of a principle, like a principle approach to let's see. I'm a bit confused myself. By the question.
Sorry, just this. So, where do you think you got that getting along with everyone and being nice to people was a moral principle?
Listening to some podcasts of yours, you were referencing kind of like you talked briefly about moral principles and how like they're universally preferable behaviors, but like you can claim.
And one thing that also strikes me is these snapshot of Stefan Molyneux himself looking at you with this Kubrick stare, right? It's like staring you right in the face like some psycho, some convict who has just escaped an asylum or whatever, right? Looking at you like, oh my God, please, Mr. Psycho, please don't. Oh my God. It's like, you have to bow down. It's like, and I also, that's just up along my recent series on Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which is one of my personal favorite movies, right? I have done an incredibly deep analysis of this movie, and I'm supporting the theory of the so-called Wendy theory, the Wendy angle, which actually explains basically everything, right? So go listen to that if you like The Shining. But there's one guy who's famous for doing Shining analysis, which is a guy called Rob Ager. And recently he has begun, I think it's called, using a shot of himself looking just like Stefan Molyneux, like he's staring like a psychopath, like a Kubrick stare into the world. What is it with these people? What's the fucking issues, man, right? Staring at you like this, you would never do that, right? Is he looking at his wife like that? Yeah, possibly in order to get her wet, right? Maybe, right? When they role play and he's the psycho who comes in through the window and can't help it, right? Or whatever. What the fuck? The psycho burglar who can't help himself, right? That makes her wet, possibly, right? I don't think UPB, reading aloud in UPB is going to do the trick, right? I have 5 proofs that you are now wet. Okay, enough of that.
Something's a universally preferable behavior, but in fact it's not when you dig into it. And so
I'm trying to cock up a syllogism for all women. All women wants to be wet. You are a woman, therefore you. It's preferable behavior for you to be. Oh my fucking God, that's stupid.
So that's what got me thinking about it, and so that's where I got that idea that there are some that they take that into a moral principle and then they act that out, where they're always, they're always trying to get along with people.
Yeah, but the problem is, even it's a fine idea if everybody else was doing it, right? So, but the problem is not the principle, but how you got to the principle. If somebody told you, that's not good philosophy. expecting your experiences to tell you how to think is a bad way of thinking. It just says everything about you not thinking for yourself if you're just listening to your experiences in order to tell you how to think, right? And they're going to make you think in a way that is advantageous for them, not for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to understand that you need to think for yourself. No matter, you don't have, you can ask Stefan Molyneux, you can ask me, you can ask anybody, but at the end of the day, you have to scrutinize it. And that is the confusion that this guy is in, that gray zone, where it's sort of, yeah, there are these people who say this, but I'm not sure they know what they're talking about. Stay with that dude. But don't be caught up with Stefan Molyneux, because he's just going to confuse the shit out of you, right? You have to do the thinking for yourself. Now, not to bang my own drum, but I think what I have done, the way I presented my philosophy, might be an inspiration, or at least an inkling or a notion about what it takes to do good philosophy and how to go about doing it. I'm not telling anybody how to think or what to think, but I'm presenting my way of thinking that might illuminate some people into saying, yeah, I guess he has a point. Maybe I should start thinking along the same lines, or do it this kind of level of rigidity in order to actually get to some philosophy that works, right? Rather than calling this stupid idiot, right? And get him to attack me and tell me to go back to my corner and shut up, right?
Okay, so you did not get from me that UPB is being nice to everyone.
He didn't talk about UPB. There are other ways of approaching ethics than UPB, stupid is here, right? Stupid asshole. It's like, well, if you talk about ethics, you talk UPB, right? So it's like, no, of course he doesn't want to be nice to everyone, because that means that he can get away with not being nice to those people who are actually asking questions and turn it around and throw it back at them to get rid of them under the pretense of getting rid of somebody who's destructive, right?
And getting along with everyone. I've never said that. That's never been part of my thinking, and that's fine. I just want to be clear to the audience that that's never been something that
Yeah, but why do you need to clarify this for your audience? Are they that stupid that they can't see that this is a general question? It's not a critique of you, right? You are on the defenses immediately, right? I mean, as soon as somebody starts to say ethics or morality or principle or anything, you're like, but you're not accusing me, are you? Are you accusing me? Are you? I just want to clear for everybody. I never said that. I never said that. I never did that, right? The Watergate. Oh, no, Clinton, I didn't have any sexual relation with this moral principle, you know? It only works when I need to get my wiener wet in my wife.
I have recommended. In fact, I would specifically not recommend that.
Are
you a white male?
Yes.
Okay, so how nice over the course of your childhood, and maybe you had it different than...
So that, it turns into a psychiatry session. Now he's going to... Oh my fucking God. He's so fucking full of his own shit that it's like, well, there's something wrong with this guy. I need to help him, right? He just asked a serious philosophical question that, please, Mr. Brilliance, Mr. Best Philosopher of all time, Mr. Holy Grail, please illuminate me. What is going on when people talk about moral principle? And then he turns it into a psychiatry session with the God. Oh man, this guy is something else, right? I mean, if you want to study sophistry, right? I mean, this guy is a perfect study. I mean, it is. He's a smooth criminal, right? It's like he turns it around. Would you describe what you mean by this? Have I ever said something like this? Yeah, I think no, but I never did that. Now, there's something wrong with your childhood, right? within a minute or so, he does this, right? It's kind of incredible, right? Now, personally, I would never do it like this because I'm actually interested. From a philosophical point of view, I'm interested in these kind of questions. Now, I would have my own ideas what it takes to make a moral principle, but I'm willing to hear whatever anybody else says. Maybe they have some brilliant approach to it that I might like, and I might even want to approach or apply to my own philosophy. But if I'm not letting the other part speak and start to pull a Freud on them, I will never learn anything. And that's what this guy is basically saying. I'm not interested in learning new. I wrote a book 20 years ago. It's perfect. Right?
So, how nice has society been to you over the course of your childhood and young adult life as a white male?
Society for me.
Don't stop this. Stop. Don't go along with his little games. Just back up and say, no, that's not what I didn't ask for a psychiatry session here, right? I asked a very straight up question about what he said basically, I don't understand what a moral principle is. He didn't say, Mr. Molyneux, please tell me what might be about this thing called moral principles and how to get to it or something like that. He was discreet and saying, I don't understand it, right? But instead of helping the guy, he's attacking him. It's fucking disgusting, man, right? I would like you to hear your answer about how you get to a moral principle, Stefan Molyneux. It's what would you call this? I'm not even sure what to call it. It's I say stupid for a lack of better terms in order to it's manipulative as fuck, right?
It hasn't been nice. I've been mostly ostracized.
Go on.
Well, in my case, I look white, but I'm technically mixed race, and so my father was very well known in the town. He had a very successful restaurant, and the town was changing, and so like a lot of people were moving out because it got too expensive, and it seemed as though like my father, people in the town just didn't like my father, and so therefore they didn't like me, and then because I looked white, I think it just added to that. It was like a double negative.
So
yeah, this is the Creole problem is you're not the whites don't like you and the blacks don't like you because you're somewhere in the middle, right? So you have to figure things out yourself. Take that as a hint that you should actually think for yourself and be yourself. Because if you're not in the in crowd, you have to become a Socrates and think for yourself. So go with that. You might need some help to get things going because where the hell do I start with all this? Should I read Plato's The Republic? No. I would say, and it's not to bang my own drum, but I created my series on my philosophy because that's the kind of video series I would have liked to have when I started out thinking philosophically about 20 years ago, right? That's the kind of video series I would have liked to have. That's why I created it this way, in order to help people who are actually in a place where I think I need to do some philosophy here, but I'm not sure what the hell to do, right? And then they jump in to ask this guy, and that's just about the worst thing they can do.
Oh, that's interesting. So your father had a very successful restaurant in a town.
So we are turned from I'm not sure about moral principle to talking about the caller's father's restaurant. But fuck you, man. Fuck you, you stupid asshole, man, right? You're a disgrace. How dare you? About maybe the most core question of all time, which is, what is a moral principle and how do we get to it? And instead you talk about the caller's father's restaurant. I mean, if you were in the room here, I think I would fucking kick you in the ass and slap you in the face. And manhandle you to the ground and say, you fucking bastard. You give me the fucking principle, right?
Well, no one like that. Sorry, I'm sure I'm missing something, so if you could break that out for me.
It was very successful, and then as the economy changed, it was a town on the coast. It was a beach town, so it went from just being more or less a town that had stuff in it to a popular destination, and so the demographics was changing to the new demographics, just like my father's restaurant.
So Stefan Molyneux loves this, right? He can keep his UPB while it sounds like they're discussing moral principles, but they're talking about some weird, suburban town somewhere, and he's a Creole, and his dad had a restaurant. I mean, oh my God. How can you in 2 minutes switch from the most important question possibly for human beings ever to tell me about your dad's restaurant? Oh my God, man, right?
More and more. And so like his income came from tourists coming, or people that used to live in that town coming back to eat his food and enjoy the beach. And so that's how his restaurant declined at that point over the years. He owned it for 30 years.
Oh, come on, dude.
15 years was very successful, and then there was a decline, in particular after the...
Yeah, and there's some lonely guy, and he's sort of a bit on the outside, and then he gets a chance to talk to somebody who's actually willing to listen, though he's only listening because time passes, and it sounds to his congregation, his Molyneux congregation, right, that they're dealing with big questions here, right? He's just like a psychiatrist. He's just letting the dude talk, right? And he feels good when he is kicked out of the air. And Stefan Molyneux gets on with his day and thinks that he's, dealt with some big questions or something. There's nothing here yet. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Nothing. There's nothing of philosophical significance of any kind yet, right? No questions about ethics have been answered. It might come later here, right? I'm not holding my breath, right? For some big answers.
The 2008 financial crisis.
Okay, so to be blunt and of course correct me where I'm wrong, did your father have a restaurant that catered to white people and then a fair number of Hispanics came in and the restaurant wasn't as popular, is that right?
So if this is how you approach figuring out if a moral principle is valid or not, you have to scrutinize the psychology and the history and the family dynamics of the person extending the supposed principle. It's like, how the hell would you do that? If this is how you approach dealing with moral principles, how the hell could I do that? If I go down to a place where they have some cucumbers and some pasta and some tomatoes, do I have to ask all the people there about the psychology? If I have a principle that small principle says you can eat everything you see, well, I can eat everything I see. Is it? Yeah. So no, but I can eat everything I see. I might not get away with it, but it's still the principle, right? I might not get away with it. I can also have a principle that says I want to jump to the moon. Yeah, it's a functional principle. I might not be successful in doing it, but the principle doesn't doesn't invalidate just because I'm not able to jump to the moon. You can have a moral principle where you fail maybe 70% of the time. That doesn't mean that it's an invalid principle. You can't switch around and say, yeah, just because I couldn't make it work, it's a dysfunctional principle. No, that's not the case. Right? You might want to approach, I mean, if you're doing good philosophy from the ground up or towards that principle, whatever that might be, end up being, I would bet you that that principle will be functioning and it has potential for success every time, even if it doesn't flesh out for whatever other reason that you maybe didn't take into account during that situation where you applied it. All of a sudden a meteor arrived, so you couldn't get to that apple, right? So shit happens, as they say. But that doesn't invalidate the principle. So if I have a principle, I can eat anything I see. Do I have, if I see another person, do I have to pull a Freud on them or a Carl Jung or whatever and ask about their daddy's restaurant or what? How does this work? It doesn't work. It's fucking stupid, right?
Yeah, and in particular, it was a Mexican restaurant, and even the Hispanics didn't like my father's kind of, I guess you could describe as like a white twist to just Mexican food.
Okay. Oh, so he had a Mexican restaurant, but it was considered too white for the Hispanics. Is that right?
Yeah, as well as the because it's like the town that I grew up in, it became progressively more left, and it's predominantly like filled with artists inside.
Caller,
so
why don't, he is tricking you. He wants to get rid of you. You need to develop some balanced empathy here. You have to understand how people generally work. They are not as empathetic as you are. So when you ask the question, you feel that you have to answer it. No, he didn't answer, you asked first. And then he starts to ask you questions. That's not how it should roll. You ask a question and he answers that question to your satisfaction. And then he might be his turn to ask you a question, but you ask the first question and you demand he answer that question because that's what's supposed to happen, isn't it? Otherwise, there's something about this show that I don't understand. It's listener questions or caller questions, right? So if you make a question, he should answer the fucking question and stay in the groove and answer your question. Don't take the bait and this red herring about your father's business and whatever. It's just bullshit, caller. Grow some balls, right?
They started leaning more left, where they're like, "Oh, I want authentic Mexican food," and so I think that's also where some disinterest came.
And were you in public school?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah.
And what was your experience in public school?
Let's see. My experience.
Oh my God. So now he's going to round. Yeah, but you see, you went to public school and you were constantly told that you should obey your masters. And that's why you're trying to be nice because you were told to be so. And that's why you have this. And it doesn't work because you were told so, right? But this is not philosophy. This is sort of some kind of armchair psychology bullshit, right? I'm not interested in this guy's past. It doesn't help me understand the idea of a moral principle. I'm seriously disappointed about this discussion here. You're letting down you're probably not letting down your audience, because everybody who can think straight is not sitting there listening to this bullshit, right? This is the question of the ages. You have basically said you found the Holy Grail that can deal with all morality, moral questions of all kinds. And I suppose that includes a moral principle. So why the fuck don't you stay in the groove, stay in your lane and address this, because it's significantly important. Maybe it's the most important time in all of history, or one of them, top 5, where we fucking need to come to some agreement what we mean by morality, right? It's like you're just sitting there, you have your Bitcoin mansion, you don't need to do shit, right? The mother of invention is long gone and dead because you're high flying on Bitcoin, so you don't need to do anything particularly well, right?
I mean, I got suspended. I remember once. They wanted to put...
So the starting question is, hey, what is a moral principle? And now we are talking about some 15 years ago or whatever. He was suspended in school. What fucking stupid shit, man, right?
Me also on ADHD medication. I remember that. I was.
Shut up, caller. Shut up and ask him. Tell him. Answer my question about a moral principle. Stay focused, Mr. Egghead, right? Eggman. Stay fucking focused on the question, right?
I mean, it wasn't a good. It wasn't a.
And when it's like Stefan Molyneux said, okay, what I have turned it around successfully now for the 166th time. I have turned it around to attack the caller, and now he's talking about his childhood. Brilliant. I can play pseudo psychoanalysis all day long if you want, right? And to get rid of any questions that even remotely challenges my stupid UBB, right?
It wasn't a good experience. It was hard for me to find friends. There were some kids that they started a rumor, and because I live in a small town, everyone knows everybody.
Oh my God, this caller is not the brightest star in the sky, right?
Just remember that these sorry, it's kind of a difficult time that I'm thinking about, so I'm having a hard time thinking
Okay,
about
so it was negative. You were bullied. They wanted to drug you, and you were suspended. And did the teachers ever seem to care about
this? If this illustrates anything, it illustrates that the average person has no freaking clue about anything remotely philosophical, right? And what it means and what a moral principle is and how you go about doing it. It's just, mommy told me to be nice, right? This is how far we have come in 3,000 years. Some philosopher, Thales of Miletus started the ball rolling, talking about the pyramids and whatever he philosophized about. Everything is water, I think, right? He started the ball rolling like 3,000 years ago. And how far have we come? Somebody pretending to be a philosopher, twisting the question of the ages around to what happened in your childhood. Is this how far it has come, Mr. Holy Grail, right? Fuck you, man. It's so fucking stupid.
what you wanted to study and learn and what you were interested in and what got you excited to come to school and to learn?
No,
Why would anything in the school make you excited? It's a fucking prison. It's a children's prison. It's a concentration camp for children where you learn to obey your masters. That's all it is. They don't care what you learn. And if it's valuable, whatever you learn, the teachers are there to make money. And in order to make that money, they have to obey their masters. They have to do the curriculum. They don't care if you want it or not. They care about making money off of you, right? And therefore they create this concentration camp that rather than children are together with their own parents, they are together with 25 other children and a few adults, right, who don't care about them. That's mental abuse And they do this from the age of about 3 until you are 18 or something, if not longer. No wonder people are fucking stupid and can't think for themselves, because they're trained implicitly not to think. Thinking for yourself is dangerous because you might be picked up by your adult masters. You're not following the curriculum. You're not easy to deal with, which is what is best. Just obey and do as you're told. It makes everything easier, right?
They weren't. In particular, they got more annoyed at me because I would get bullied, and then I would confront them back. Sometimes even in the media, it's like, "Why are you doing this to me? Stop it!" And I remember my 4th grade teacher just consistently being frustrated and annoyed at me, not at the kids bullying me.
Okay. And
of course, because he's not going to challenge the system that is responsible for creating a scenario. Some teacher, in order to fix the bullying problem, would have to say this system doesn't work. But if he does that, he loses his job. So instead, he will blame the victim. Obviously, right? There's something wrong with you for not liking to be bullied, because I need this system to work in order for me to get my money. I don't care about you, little bitch, right? I care about my own life, and I have to apply myself to my masters, because that's what I learned when I went to school. That's what makes me feel safe, right?
were you respected as a male? Were you respected in terms of your culture and your history?
No. I remember feeling guilty about like the sins of Western civilization and
slavery and the pillaging of the resources and environmentalism and global warming and the destruction of the indigenous population and colonialism and blah, 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 blah. So, all of the sorts of sins and terrible things were heaped upon you as a helpless, tender-hearted, intelligent little boy, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to be nice?
But it's not about what you want. You say that all the time. It's not about what I want. It's not what I prefer. It's some universal thing. It's the grand, constant objectivity and truth that is the guiding line for your morality. It's not about what the individual think. So why are you switching? It's a completely different story now compared to your UPB. But that's what the question actually addresses. So why do we have to delve into what this guy thinks? Rather than how do you get to that fucking moral principle? And how do you not get to it if you can't do it according to your standard? But we never get to understand your standard concerning moral principle or moral statements or moral whatever you call it. Right? Why don't you address the interesting question rather than this pseudo bullshit psychology?
Well, because I figured that strategy would lessen the hostility people had towards me.
Okay. And this has been a strategy that Europeans or Westerners have been pursuing for 70, 80 years. How's that working for us?
Poorly. Actually, maybe even fatal.
So I'm just, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just asking about the be nice, get along with people. I assume you've had that as a value for many years, right?
I mean, as I said in the beginning, I think it says a lot that Stefan Molyneux doesn't understand that the guy mentioned be nice to everyone as a clarification of some kind of what he means, or an example, what people might dish out as an example of a moral principle. Be nice is some kind of principle, though it's extremely fluffy and probably not backed up by anything, any kind of philosophy, right? but it's in order to address what he means by a moral principle. It's not like, this is my moral principle, but because the caller is so sort of weak-spined in a way, and probably very empathetic, and is struggling with his empathy because it's generally used to manipulate him, right? And get him to do shit he might not want, and blaming him for doing shit the wrong way according to a standard that is called being nice. This is the problem for people who are very empathetic. So you have to grow some balls and grow some chest hair and have an idea of when people are trying to manipulate you, right? Just like Stefan Molyneux is here. He's avoiding answering the fucking question. There might be some coming up here because I haven't listened it through yet, right? So, but so far, no cigar, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I
And what you
even
still
do.
do, because you're asking me about virtues, and one of the virtues is be nice and try to get along with people.
No. Why are you twisting it around? He didn't talk about virtues. You are talking about virtues. So you are reframing it, right? You're changing the story to something else. He didn't talk about virtue. He talked about moral principles, didn't he? Right? Mr. Sophist.
And so on. And what decade of life are you in?
I just started my 30s.
Okay. So you've been doing this for most...
So what? You could have been doing philosophy for 3 days and be a fucking genius, right? You could also have done philosophy for 40 years and not gotten anywhere, just like Stefan Molyneux hasn't.
Of your life. And listen, maybe it's worked out for you. I'm not trying to put you in a corner or anything like that. But because you have a very tentative way of speaking. Again, I'm not trying to make fun of you or be negative or anything like that. But you have a very tentative and perhaps over...
So fucking what? Answer the bloody question. Answer the question. Talk about moral principles. Now you just squandered 10 minutes talking about the caller's childhood, right? Trying to frame it that way. And as if the question was about being nice. That's an example of a moral principle. He wants to understand what is meant by a moral principle and possibly how to philosophize towards it. That's the question you should answer, you fucking blockhead, man.
Over eager or over conciliatory way of speaking, and maybe that's working for you. I'm not, saying, of course, well, how could it be? That would be the wrong thing to do because I'm an empiricist. So it sounds like being relatively tentative and deferential and trying to get along with people and trying to have people like you and so on, is that getting you what you want in your life? And again, this is not a prejudicial question. Maybe it is, but is it?
Oh, it's an excellent question. So personally, like
it's an excellent question. But you are the caller. You're the one asking questions. He's the one answering it. I mean, you have answered more questions than the guy who should answer questions, Mr. Caller, right? This is ridiculous, man, right? You have to be a fucking moron to follow this guy. He is bloody fucking awful at philosophy, right?
As an individual, it's like disheartening and kind of like I feel as though like my soul is rotting away, but like externally, like getting along with people, I mean it's worked very well, but it's like that the thing you've mentioned.
We are running out of time. He's not going to answer this question. I am going to take a chance and say he's not going to answer this. He's going to say, thank you for calling and whatever. But my suggestion to the caller is, rather than be nice to everyone, you should rather be working from the idea that everybody is out to manipulate you. You will get a more coherent life and a more functional life by approaching everybody else like they're trying to manipulate you. And the manipulation is not their presence. It's what they're saying and how they phrase it. And just take this guy, Mr. Stefan Molyneux, as a sign. He just manipulated into talking about your childhood rather than asking a very, very important question. So just take for granted that unless anything else is settled, people are out to get you, out to manipulate you, out to use you. A worst case mentality is probably your best starting point. If you don't have a moral principle, go with the idea that people are trying to trick you. And then be careful. If somebody approaches you, be careful. Be sure that they're not trying to fuck with you, right? If they are twisting the words around, or basically, if people by expressing something are not stating a proposition, like that's an elephant, that's a beaver, that's a car. If there's something else, like abstraction ideas about being nice and so on, they're tricking you. They are tricking you. If their statements is not concerned with something you can objectify, like an apple, like a bicycle, and something like that, they are probably out to get you. That's your best starting point. Until you, caller, has done the philosophy in order to get to your own moral principle. And if you don't know where to start and what to do, please go and have a look at my series called My Philosophy. It's a few months old from this point on, right?
Well, sorry, not that you mentioned. What comes to mind is something you've said, which is you've never retracted, and I've never retracted or said,
I've never withdrawn something I know to be true. So go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, and I found that I've always found that inspirational, but also I'm a bit envious, and I've definitely lived my life the opposite of that.
But you said that it's working out for you, right?
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
holy fuck, man.
It is working, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a personal cost.
Everything comes with a cost. We're intelligent people here. We don't need to, well, I learned the guitar, but that meant I wasn't learning the piano. Like, okay, we understand. You don't need to say that. Okay, so let me ask you.
Okay, you don't need to say that. Okay, so now he is lifting himself up from the details of this guy's life and just telling him that this is not worth mentioning, right? Okay, but it's apparently worth mentioning his childhood and his father's restaurant when you are asked about the fucking moral principle. You are fucking too much, mate. You are a fucking disgrace to the idea of a discourse and philosophy in general. You're a fucking disgrace, man, right? Fuck you, man.
Have a woman in your life who respects and admires and loves you.
Oh my God, sis.
What?
I think wifey is already getting moist, right? I have cheesecakes. Molly.
Why is that the cost?
Why would that be the cost?
Because men are providers and protectors. Okay.
What? Isn't that a moral principle? Are you not just slinging out a fucking moral principle here? Men are this and men are that. It's not a sort of a half camouflaged moral principle. Because if you have a dick, you need to do this. And if you have a dick, you need to do that. Fuck you, you bastard, man, right? So after spending 20 minutes discussing this guy's childhood and lecturing him on what is important and not important, without answering a question about a moral principle, here at the finishing line, you're slinging out a moral principle without any justification at all. It's fucking ridiculous, man.
You be a provider and protector if you just want to get along with everybody and have everybody like you.
So he's just slinging a fucking moral principle in his face without answering the question. I mean, it's so fucking stupid. He avoids answering the fundamental philosophical question about moral principles, and then he ends up slinging a fucking moral principle in his face without justification and saying your other moral principle that you brought along, supposedly, which was only an example of a moral principle, but, you know, Stefan Molyneux pinned this to his face and saying, okay, that's your moral principle, and that's not going to work because you need to support a wife and a child because that's my principle, and I'm just slinging it in your face. Can anybody see properly? Fucking moron, man, right?
Right.
Tell me a little bit about your dating history.
Going into dating? Are you going to be a dating coach now? I mean, oh my fucking God, it's stupid, man. Ha! Ha!
The last time I dated, and my last relationship was when I was 23.
But come on, man. The chapter is called Defining Moral Principles. I haven't even seen a shadow of an attempt at defining anything here yet, right? But we are doing dating coaching and talking about daddy's restaurant and it's next level fucking moronically stupid. Holy fuck, it's stupid, man, right? How dare you pretend to call yourself philosopher, man, right? Please call yourself something else, right? Stop calling yourself a philosopher. You're a fucking disgrace, man.
I think, yeah, something like that. But since then, it's kind of the same thing with friends as well. I guess since I can't be. Sorry, I choose not to be honest with people. I just don't. There's just less value in the relationships that I'm able to comfortably find, and so it's turned into an isolating experience.
Oh my God! I wasn't aware. The chaptering here, I thought this was different colors. This just keeps going. Because down here we have a moral principles debate. Predator in the house, costs of appeasement. I don't want all of this psychology bullshit. I'm not going to force you to go through it either, right? So I hadn't seen this. So this is in 1.5. It's like an hour of talking about this guy's childhood, right? This pseudo fucking bloody psychology bullshit, right? Rather than answering the fucking question, rather than basically blaming the caller for not doing things right or having some bad psychology or bullshit, right? Let's go directly to this moral principles debate and see what he says, and then I'll close up this video, right?
Go ahead.
What I'm wondering is, like, to me, I'm looking at the situation. I'm looking at my, like, I thought about this a lot. I wrote down notes and such, and like, I know this sounds wrong, but like, I understand, you know.
To the caller, I bet you that you will develop a stronger spine emotionally if you do all that philosophy yourself, because you will get to points where you have to decide philosophically how to approach things, and that will straighten yourself up to become more stern and better I would suggest that after a while you might make a YouTube channel and start talking about it and reflecting on it. And as you do this, it's like the 10,000 hours of training. You can be a good guitar player or golf player in one weekend. It takes fucking forever, right? But as you do it, you get better and better and better, and it gets easier and easier and easier. It's like some famous golf player said, well, the more I play golf, the more lucky I get, right? It's you just train yourself to become better at it. It's just something the plasticity of your mind and your body and all that sort of molds into something that is more honed towards whatever you want to do. You're in a situation now that you're so confused that you don't know what to do. And Stefan Molyneux basically takes advantage of you in order to avoid the general basic question that you're asking. And after 1 hour here, maybe it's going to do something. Let's see. But I suggest that you as a caller do the thinking yourself and try to get to some philosophy. And if you don't know what exercises to do philosophically, I suggest that you might want to take a look at my series called My Philosophy. You might get some ideas of what to do and then take it from there and do it yourself, right? But if Stefan Molyneux says you have to do it yourself, he's sort of basically destroying his business model, because his business model is based on people coming to him and treating him like an oracle, right?
Virtue as, by definition, an empirical preference that's universal. And so, to me, I'm not talking about virtue. I'm talking about I want to understand people's morals as a whole. So both the morals that are.
No, you don't. Yeah. You might want to understand people's morals, but their morals is their application of a moral principle, to be strict about it, right? So what you want to understand is, what is their moral principle? And most importantly, how did they get to it? If it's like, well, my priest told me, or mommy told me, or I've just heard somebody down the street using this, and because I don't have one myself, I'm just applying this because I think I need one, then it's not good enough. You have to do all the thinking yourself. Cut the crap, right? Drop everybody else's thinking. You have to do everything yourself. Don't just ditch all your mantras, all your dogmas, everything you've heard. At some point you need to ditch it and start from the ground and work up yourself, right? Philosophy is personal. It's not a community. Philosophy is strictly personal. And I always say on my channel, philosophy, you have to do your own philosophy. You shouldn't just take mine for granted. You have to scrutinize my philosophy in order to accept whatever moral principle or whatever it is we're dealing with, you want to deal with. You have to scrutinize it and make sure I'm not making any flaws. But I would say at the end of the day, if you don't have your own philosophy and you can't find any flaws in mine, and you don't have anything to go on other than what mommy told you, you might consider my philosophy and my moral principle, right? Why would it be better to do what mommy told you than what I have come up with through 15, 20 years or whatever, how much time it took me to get here, right? I'm not saying that's a justification of being right. I might have cocked up something in 3 minutes that is actually perfect, rather than spending 40 years ruminating about something that is imperfect. The amount of time spent doesn't justify anything. It's a circumstantial evidence of some kind, right? But if you have the choice between Mandibil, who created this rigid philosophy, ending up in this moral principle, and I can't find any flaws in it, and I don't have my own philosophy, or on the other hand, the guy down the street or mommy told me, be nice to everyone. Which one should you go for, right? I mean, to me, it's obvious. It's obvious you have to go to my philosophy. Until you find something better, maybe. Or you come up with something yourself that is better according to your own standards, right?
That are UVB compliant and those that are not. And so that was the subject I wanted to bring, and it just sounds like I made a catastrophic mistake. And
No. It's not a
I just am
catastrophic.
trying
It's not
to-
No, hang on. It's not a catastrophic mistake. That's not doom and gloom. It's just a conversation.
It's immensely embarrassing to me. Like I know that maybe I am overreacting. I just feel
Yeah, but your embarrassment is going to be a detriment for you, right? You're so avoidant of not fitting in. Just say fuck everybody else. Fuck you, man. Just say fuck you to them. I'm doing it in my own way, right? But go do a philosophy because you need it. If you don't have a philosophy, you're like a minion following somebody else over the cliff. You have to say fuck you, I'm doing it myself. And then grow a spine through that. Hone yourself. Train yourself to say, fuck you, man. I don't believe in your shit. Well, okay. And the other guy or girl says, oh, I'm getting angry at you. Yeah, fuck you, then I don't need you. Right? If you can't handle the truth, then fuck off, right? That's what you need. You need to learn to say, fuck you.
utterly
Listen, don't be...
I'm not telling you what to do. I'm giving advice here, right?
embarrassed at all. Don't be embarrassed. It's just a conversation. Don't be embarrassed. But the question is...
But I'm not saying you shouldn't be embarrassed, but you have to work yourself maybe out of being embarrassed. I can't tell you what to feel, but I can tell you how to work on how you address what you feel. Stefan Molyneux telling him he shouldn't be embarrassed. That's disgusting. Don't tell people what to feel. He probably don't like to be told what to feel, right? But of course, he's sitting on his throne there, lecturing the little people about what to feel.
Yes. How have you been living?
Would you please?
Have you been living?
More principles
with the
debate.
idea
Would you please answer the fucking question, man?
Get along with people and be nice. Because it sounds like that's how you've been living with regards to your family.
That is how I've been living.
Your practical, applied, empirical definition of virtue. Now, you said
Yeah,
I had
that's a
said
good
it.
one.
He didn't talk about virtue, you fucking moron. He asked about a moral principle. Why are you twisting it around? You sophist. Asshole, right?
Or something like that. It's not a mistake. Because if you were to tell me, I mean, you know that I'm kind of a bloodhound when it comes to the source of things, the origin stories. So if you were to tell...
Oh, origin stories. Like definitions of moral principle, for instance. Is that one of those you're interested in? Like talking about the subject that the caller actually wanted to talk about rather than shoving him into some armchair psychology bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, can you please just let me finish my thought? This talking in my ears.
Okay, but you've been pounding on his psychology for an hour. Maybe he's getting a little impatient with you now, Mr. Fuckface, right?
Shit drives me absolutely bananas. And you know that, right? So you gotta let me finish my thought before you talk in my ear, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So if you were to say to me, Steph, I'm following your philosophy and my life isn't working out. But just...
Who says he's following it? Who says? It's a monstrous straw man, this. He just frames shit as he goes along. He takes for granted that because he's calling him, that he's following his magical book that apparently he still thinks is perfect. And then he asked about a particular moral principle. And his book, UPB, Stefan Molyneux's book, doesn't deal with moral principles. It supposedly, I think, deals with how to check if a moral principle is not dysfunctional. But he says he's trying to follow his book, but then you can't follow his book. If you want a moral principle, that's not what his book does. So he doesn't even understand his own fucking book. Right? That's how stupid he is.
It's totally fine. It's like calling up a diet expert and saying, I'm following your diet and I'm 300 pounds. I'm doing everything you say and I'm...
I mean, it's like somebody coming to you and asking some straight up question like, I can't ride a bicycle. I want to understand how to ride a bicycle. And then if somebody asked me, I would, if I was Stefan Molyneux, I would start asking, but how about your childhood? How was your father? Oh, he had a restaurant. Okay, yeah, sure. Oh, you were bullied in school. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Have you read you have sort of rode on my bicycle, I suppose, right? No, I asked about how do you ride a fucking bicycle? 1 hour later, he's still talking about the guy's psychology, right? Rather than saying, let me show you how to ride the fucking bicycle, right? Put your ass on the saddle, twist these around and do this for sort of a couple of 100 hours and you'll see right? Don't drive on something soft, and if you tip over, you're not going to hurt yourself too much, right? Put on some knee pads or whatever, a helmet and so on, and then try it. Do this thing with the bike. No. He's not going to tell him about this simple thing called a moral principle or riding a bicycle. No, he's going to delve into the guy's psychology instead, right? It's fucking moronic, right?
I'm gaining 3 pounds a week or whatever for like 2 years.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, the Stefan Molyneux must have labeled these chapters, right? At 25 minutes, it says defining moral principles. I have not seen even an approach. Rather, it's more like a smoke and mirrors to get away from defining anything, right? And then all this psychology, emotional distance, angry father, deep sadness, role play, the confrontation, role play. Dad as bully, distant family ties, predator in the house, cost of appeasement, virtue misunderstood. Okay, so the guy doesn't know what he's doing because Stefan Molyneux knows about virtues now, right? The question wasn't about virtue. And then we get to an hour later, moral principles debate, and we are still not dealing with moral principles. Yet he calls it a moral principles debate. Now it has turned into, rather than defining moral principles, now it has turned into a debate about moral principles. I mean, what the hell is going on with this man? Doesn't he have is he living in his own little echo chamber? He has lost contact with the real world or something, right? He's halfway up to his mind daddy or something. I don't know what the hell is going on here. He has lost grasp of reality or something, right?
Yeah, that would be discreditable towards the philosophy. And if I say, well, like if I was a diet expert and I said something like, follow the Mediterranean diet. And you said, listen, Steph, you define a good diet as cheesecake, bonbons, and M&Ms.
Cheesecake! I just mentioned cheesecake earlier, right? Of course, because apparently he loves cheesecake. I don't know why. Maybe I have remembered this from earlier days when he talked about cheesecake. I don't know.
I've been following that. I would have to say, that's not how I define a good diet. But if you have, in fact, been eating cheesecake, bonbons, and M&Ms, there would be a short circuit, right? So if you say, well, I'm reading this diet book, I'm doing the opposite of what the diet book guy says, and I'm going to call him up, it's kind of tough. Because if you'd have said to me, Steph, your definition of virtue is the moral courage to pursue the truth.
Moral courage to pursue the truth? But he's not talking about virtue, you fucking moron. He's asking about a moral principle. And I suppose implied by that, he wants to understand how you get to them. You can't just throw them up in the air and say you have to have moral courage. What the fuck is that?
Truth, despite opposition, to pursue virtue and spread truth, honor, and integrity and
spread truth, honor, and integrity. What the hell are you talking? You're rambling like an idiot. It sounds fancy. It sounds noble, but it's just empty words. It's like a cake that is only whipped cream, but it looks nice, right? But there's no cake inside. There's no real argument or any philosophy underneath all these fancy terms.
Virtue, and to accept and try and roll with as best you can the inevitable blowback from evildoers, right?
Evildoers? What is an evildoer? That's a Christian term. Is there anything called evil or discussed evil in your UPB book? I don't see any evil in your 5 proofs, right? And I'm not saying there should be, but it gets an example of how he just throws around terms. It's neither here nor there. There's no coherence. There's no rigidity. There's no reference to any basic understanding, but that I can tap into, go back to and say, yeah, but this is in a contradiction with your ontology or something like that, right? You're contradicting your own statements about what you are going to do when you do this basic philosophy that you don't have. So I can't go and check it, right? That's the main problem with Stefan Molyneux. He has no base philosophy at all. He thinks that he can just sit down and throw words at you, and then he has solved something or proved something. And then he's just switching the terms around. Now I'm going to talk about virtue and moral courage. But this is not what the caller asked about. He just wants a basic discussion, a presentation of your ideas of how to get to a moral principle. And that's the only thing basically he hasn't answered, right? He's talked about basically anything else from dating to cheesecakes to his daddy's restaurant, right?
Then that would be, closer to my definition of virtue. Would you agree with that? Okay, so then if you said, this is the definition of virtue, and I start to ask you about your life...
But why are you defining virtue when he basically asked for a definition of a moral principle? Is it because you don't know what you're talking about? And in your shadow realm, you actually understand that you are full of shit, right? You don't have an answer. You want to pretend that you're creating something resembling an answer, but which is an answer to something different, as if you can twist around the discussion because you're so special. That but it's not the real question, it's not moral principles. It's more like a definition of virtue rather, right? So when you ask that question, you should be asking another question that is more important, which is moral courage and a definition of virtue, right? Would you agree with that, Mr. Caller? Yes, Mr. Philosophy.
And you say, I'm still in contact with my relentlessly gaslighting or abusive or whatever they're doing parents. I'm living with my grandmother, and
So now we have to defoo, right? I'm not saying that it's out of the question that you should cut ties with the family. I have actually done that myself, right? But that's not just because I have heard somebody say you should defoo, right? It's not, I have done some very serious thinking about it, right? And I feel that my family was basically a hindrance for my personal progression in life, right?
I'm best friends with someone who says, keep the peace no matter what. You understand that would be a contradiction, right?
It is a contradiction. I understand it's a contradiction.
The virtues that you're living, that you're actually making your decisions on, and then you said, Steph, this is what you say is virtue.
God damn it, man. Look at how he can twist things around and put the caller on the pin, right? It's almost like you're being scrutinized as a caller instead of him answering that bloody simple question, actually. It's a simple question. It's not necessarily a simple answer, but it's a straight up question. There's nothing much to be confused about unless you're a caller who's insecure, like this caller seems to be. And I'm not bashing the guy for being like that. There are many people like that. That's why one of the reasons why the world is going down the shitter, because there's so many insecure people being created by the system, right? It's a destruction of individuality. That's the problem, really. And that's government's fault, obviously, right?
And again, I'm not criticizing you. I'm not nagging you. I just want to be clear about this. I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't care what you find fascinating. Would you mind answering the fucking bloody question? Because that's what I'm interested in. It is a philosophy show, isn't it? It's not a psychology show or fix my daddy issues or whatever. It is called a philosophy show. You are Mr. Philosophy. It says here, philosopher Stefan Molyneux dismantles the be nice to everyone in his X space. Okay, so he's a philosopher. He calls himself a philosopher. So he asked a particularly philosophical, straight up question about moral principles. Would you fucking please answer the question, man? It's disgraceful. Right?
But this is the price.
What is
Because
the price?
if you are this confusing, like I'm an expert communicator, I've been doing this for decades.
Oh, you are an expert because you have decided you are, and I'm special. I am Molyneux, right? I am actually very, very special. I have written a book about it, and it's the Holy Grail of philosophy. It solves the biggest question about morality of all time. But if a caller asks me about moral principles, I'm going to attack them and ask questions about their childhood and say they have daddy issues and talk about the restaurant and cheesecakes and so on instead, right? Because I'm special. I have done this for years. I am an expert. This is a fucking narcissist squared, right? He is a fucking narcissistic, self-grandiose asshole, right? He's a midwit, Pied Piper, right? He's the one-eyed king of the blind, right? Oh God, he's stupid, man.
Have a true Gordian knot to untangle in your communication, can a woman fall in love with you?
So now he's basically labeling him as a wanker, a wanker incel who can't get laid. I mean, rather than answering the question. We are approaching that Monty Python level of stupid, right? Oh.
Confusing as fuck sometimes, which we all are, right? But you know what I mean?
No, I'm above average in terms of confusion. It's one of the things my parents neglected. They're just like, "Oh, you're fine, you're okay. Your English is great." And I know what you mean. It's like,
Mr. Caller, you're being twisted around.
Anyways,
You're being used. He's using you. He's using you to spout his bullshit. He's avoiding your central question. Have you forgotten what you asked about? You're being lured into this morass of stupidity and craziness. Pull yourself out of this shit, man, right?
Right. And
then you're going to say, okay, I probably need Mr. Molyneux to tell me how to live my life and be virtuous. I need to pay him some money, right? I must pay a lot of money to make sure that I get the answers right. Don't give him anything. He doesn't deserve anything. Click on my buy me a coffee and give me a few dollars, right? Give me a few shekels. I'm trying to help you. This guy is trying to confuse you in order to take advantage of you, right?
the price of having people in your life that you're scared of is self-respect and moral courage.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying you don't
down here, it's like, okay, moral principles debate. So what is the other thing we've done? That's not a debate. Though he just answers defining moral principles. We didn't get to define anything, right? Then there's all this emotional shit, right? Role playing and that is, whatever, all this shit, right? And then we get to moral principles. Now there's a moral principles debate. I haven't seen any debate yet. I am basically hearing and calling him a wanker, right? And then at 1:40, it's like closing the call. There's a chapter called Closing the Call. It's like, now I'm getting rid of him, right? New call, a new topic. I mean, what is this? Probably this is probably a listener who has made these chapterings. I would maybe suppose, right? I would maybe suppose that it's a caller who's made them. So maybe it's not Stefan Molyneux himself who has made this chapter. He doesn't care. He has his Bitcoin. He doesn't need to sit here and make chaptering. He can just say, fuck you, man. I'm just doing this because I'm bored, right? And pretending to be a philosopher still, right? Get the free domain merge. What is this? I need to check this out in a minute, right? But let's get on with this and finish it.
Have self-respect, and I'm not saying you don't have moral courage, but in terms of like the practical
You aren't saying you have. What are you saying then? But what are you doing? I mean, would you answer the question about moral principles? Because that's what it seems to me like you're supposed to do.
application of it. You can't voluntarily put yourself in prison and have free range of the universe. And you can't say my highest value is appeasing corrupt and immoral people and...
But how do you classify these as a... This way you have just talked to this guy for an hour or so, and now you can label his people as immoral and whatever. How do you do that? It's a long distance moralization. What the hell is it? This guy is a fucking crazy person. He's fucking dangerous, man. Don't listen to stupidity like this, man, right? I beg you, find somebody who can actually think and be straight and rigid and humble about their philosophy. Like this guy, he thinks he's sort of a telepathic moralizer. He's a fucking stupid idiot, man, right?
I'm going to get the love of a virtuous woman.
So now he has an agenda. He needs to get people fucking so they can outbreed the immigrants, right? He has this underlying agenda. How do I get people to make more children? You have to find a woman who loves you, a good woman, and you have to make babies with her, right? Don't look at all the divorce rate, right? Don't pretend there's no divorce raping going on anywhere, right? No, just get some babies because we need to outbreed the brown people, right?
Because you said I can't date while I'm still with my family and you're still with your family, right?
I mean, yes.
And so you have chosen to not date, and you will not get a quality partner if you are still subjugated to a corrupt and immoral family or friendships. A quality woman comes and meets your...
Well, if you want to define a moral principle, right, that might actually be the tool you need to use in order to find a good woman. If you were able to define what it means to have a moral principle and how you get to it, this guy might be able to actually create a moral principle. And by using that, when he meets a woman, he's going to ask her, well, do you have a moral principle? And she said, no, I'm just doing what mommy told me. Then he's going, that's not good enough. I need a woman with a moral principle. And in a philosophically rigid moral principle, right? That would actually help him find a good woman. You can't just look at her tits and her ass, right? And if she's wearing a summer dress, she might be a feminist chameleon, right?
Friend who's like, yeah, just roll with it. It's not a big deal. You take care of your parents. Just be nice to everyone. And these are the people, I think, who've done the most damage to you in your life, your family of origin. And a virtuous, morally courageous woman of great integrity and honor, dignity and decency comes...
Yeah, this sounds great, all these fancy words, right? But it's just words. You need some tangible... what's the term? Something to work from. You have to have an algorithm maybe for how to approach this. You can't just say, well, I like her ass, right? And she sounds nice and she goes to church maybe, right? She's going to fucking destroy you in divorce courts when she has 2.2 children. Right? So all this bullshit, all these fancy words he uses is just to, manipulate you. There's no coherent philosophy anywhere underlying this. That's why he avoids answering the actual question, because he can't answer it. He doesn't have any moral principle. He just has this bullshit book that doesn't deal with anything that is remotely philosophical. Just look at these five proofs. They could stand alone. You could take these 5 proofs out and they should give you whatever you need. At least according to what he sets out doing in his book, which is a moral or ethical framework. With these 5 proofs alone, nothing else, because syllogism should stand alone, be able to stand alone, right? And if you can't get to something functional out of these 5 proofs, his book is just pure, unadulterated bullshit, right? And that's why he avoids answering this question and turning it around and talking about the caller's moral courage and his daddy's restaurant or whatever bullshit, right?
And sees your environment. Does she want to marry into it?
Absolutely not.
Does she want this influence around her children?
Oh my God, no.
Does she look at you as someone she can...
Holy fuck, this guy is atrocious, right? This is like, oh my fucking God, right? It's like you go to buy a car and you want to look at a car, and after an hour, you're getting butt fucked in the back room by the car dealer, right? I'm going to fucking give you a used car, right?
can really admire for his moral fiber and moral strength.
Yeah.
And again, none of this is to make you feel bad. You can choose whatever you want, obviously. I mean, I think there are better and worse choices, but I can't make them for you. So you can choose whatever you want. I just really, really need you to know the costs and the benefits. And I need you to be clear.
Yeah, and be clear. I'm going to go into my philosophical priest mode now, right? And taste every word and make it sound poetic and prosaic. And oh my God, I'm Mr. Greatness, right?
On what it's costing you.
What is costing you? The trailer for I'm Not Going to Answer Your Question movie, right?
To be nice to people who aren't nice to you. Hey, I'm real nice to people who are nice to me. You know, you haven't treated me badly in this conversation, and...
No, but you are treating that guy badly by not answering a fucking straight-up question, and rather turned it into a, armchair scenario, right? Pseudo-psychology scenario instead, and talking about his exposing his childhood on live television, basically, right? Because he's such a nice guy, he's going to answer your question rather than saying, no, that's not what I asked for. I asked the question you need to answer, right? I'm a caller. I ask the questions, you give me the answers, Mr. Philosophy, right? Fuck off.
I'm nice to people who are nice to me. Fantastic. People who aren't nice to me, yeah, I'll tell them. I'll have a couple of conversations about it.
Maybe it's, if I should armchair psychology a bit here, maybe it's because he didn't have a father who could give him some cojones, this Mr. Molyneux, right? Apparently he lived with his mother all his childhood, and a crazy mother, right? So he has become this feminine kind of sophist manipulator using words, rather than be a straight up masculine, principle-driven man. He's a pathetic little loser. He's just good at throwing around words, right? As far as I remember, And he called himself a Mr. Philosopher. He's the greatest philosopher of all time, or whatever he is, right? He has great, big ambitions. But it apparently took him 40 years to figure out that he was a great philosopher. Because first off, he tried to be whatever, right? Working in whatever bullshit jobs. Then he was gold panning. Then he went to university to get a degree in history. Why? If you're Socrates 2.0, why are you spending all your... He wanted to be an actor. He went to acting school. If you're the greatest philosopher in all time, you're Socrates 2.0 or whatever, why are you wasting your time on that bullshit? Becoming an actor and studying history? You're wasting 5, 10, 15, 20 years doing that shit. Why are you doing that? It's because you're not really a philosopher. But this was the last call. Okay, I have to become an online philosopher and see if it works. And apparently it worked. Right? He's just he's a charlatan. He has no fucking clue what he's doing. Right? He's just good at manipulating people into thinking that he's actually doing something. He's not giving you anything. In fact, he's taking you away from actually doing seriously good and rigid philosophy, because he's going to drown you in all this bullshit mumbo-jumbo word salad, right? Okay.
If they're still not nice to me? Because see, you're kind of living like you've got forever, right? I mean, you're in your 30s, you just turned 30, right? So you're not with an excess of time.
Okay, but you were at least 40, I believe, before you started philosophizing, right? So what were you doing? He's 30. He still had 10 years to reach the point where you apparently started to be an online philosopher rather than gold panning and trying to be a fucking actor. So don't lecture people about what to do and having children, right? You're turning 2 adult people into 1 child. So don't lecture people about outperforming the brown ones, right? It's so nice to sit there and lecturing other people, right? Rather than doing it yourself. Because when it comes to doing it yourself, you basically have nothing to offer. You can't even answer a straight up question that actually points directly to the book you have written, 250 pages, including 5 moronic proofs about morality. But he asks about a moral principle, and you're just shrouding him in bullshit instead, right?
Because the longer you go without a relationship, the worse at relationships you're going to be. You know, when I was a little kid, I spoke German pretty fluently. I stopped studying it, and how much German can I speak now? I stopped speaking it, I stopped studying it, I stopped using it, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, for my master's degree, I had to translate French on the fly, and I was pretty good at it. And how well can I translate French now?
No, but if you do some philosophy now, and you have written down your philosophy in a way that you can understand yourself, and you have reached a moral principle, even if it goes 10 years and you have gotten out of the habit of doing philosophy, you can still go back to what you have written in your notebooks and say, okay, this is what, follow this and follow this, and I think the moral principle still holds. You can still do that. You don't need to be in constant philosophical mode in order to work from a functional moral principle. You don't have to build a new bicycle every time you go biking. You use the old one, right?
Because I haven't kept up with it, I haven't practiced it.
Yeah, it's like you're a beginner.
Right. So you have trained yourself as an adult to appeasement out of fear and to taking a short-term easy route over a long-term difficult route. And that has conditioned your professional life, it's conditioned your friendships, it's conditioned your family life, of course, it's conditioned your romantic life, or lack thereof. And so you can choose whatever you want. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that. It's a free will situation. I just need you to know the cost, because what you get right now is the benefits of not having a volatile situation with your family, which I hugely sympathize with, and I'm very sorry and sad about it. And you didn't deserve any of this. You didn't ask for it. You didn't want it. Nobody's responsible for the family they're born into. And I'm really sorry that this is the family you were born into. It's really tragic and horrible and so on. And if you were 20, that would be a different matter. 25, yeah, but 30, especially if you've been listening to philosophy for 5 years.
I'm sorry that it takes so long to get through this. I had my hopes unreasonably high about this, that he would actually possibly address the question, right? So that's, okay, I guess that's how we have to take it. So I have tried to fill this video out with some response at least. So it's atrocious, man, right? And would you please give me more than 837 views? And go tell Mr. Molyneux about my fantastic reaction here, right? So he might he's going to block me or whatever. He's not interested in criticism. It just goes against his business model, right? Okay, let's see if we can get this over with.
If you choose to continue on the path you are on, you will not get married to a quality woman.
But oh my God. He has just been talking to this guy for about an hour without answering his actual question, right? And now he's telling him about how much of a wanker he is, right? It's fucking disgusting, right? How dare you POS, man. You see you next Tuesday, right? You are a country without the RI, right? Oh, man.
You will not become a good father. I just need to be clear.
Agree.
I need to be clear about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm in very fortunate possession, and not just fortunate, I think I've earned it, but I'm in very fortunate possession of having a number of high-quality females around me. I know the mindset fairly well.
Oh my God, man. Oh my God. I am a player, right? I mean, the high quality females, is that his wife and his daughter? I mean, of course they're perfect because they're his family. They are perfect, right? And because I'm the daddy, right? Who's your daddy, right? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy, right? I can see she is ready with the cheesecake now. Absolutely. I bet you, right?
Yeah. And I have some idea of what they're looking for, and they're looking for moral courage and wisdom, which means you don't just run headlong into battle when you can't win, but, some moral courage, some self-knowledge, some wisdom, and they're looking for high-quality relationships.
Cool, Mr. Dating Coach. Oh my God. I mean, even Monty Python couldn't come up with something this fucking ridiculous, right? At least Monty Python would have made some kind of football match with philosophers or something like that, right? Or slap somebody with a fish or something that is actually interesting. This is so fucking stupid. It's labeled like, defining moral principles, the moral principles debates, and it's anything but about moral principles, right? It's fucking atrociously stupid. I would like to have a bigger vocabulary worthy for labeling the craziness of what is going on with this guy, right? Please help me. What words? Give me some words I could use to label this guy, right? I mean, help me, English speakers. What would you call this, right? Give me some examples. Please comment down below, right?
The men that they would date. And you will not meet their standards because you have chosen to be nice rather than to be honest. And that comes out of fear. Men are not designed to be nice. Women, a little bit more, right? Women score very high in the trait called agreeableness, and they need to get along. And I get all of that. for sure. And women can teach us mechanical men a little bit more about diplomacy and the right time and the right place and the Aristotelian mean of courage and foolhardiness and
what
cowardice.
a load
So
of
women have a
fucking bullshit, right? He's just name dropping shit, right? It sounds great, and the poor little listener is sitting there. Oh my God, he's so great. He knows so much, and I'm not even worthy to get the question answered. I'm just a wanker. I need to go find a woman and make her pregnant, right? Because Daddy Philosopher says so.
To teach men, for sure, great stuff. But your woman needs you to protect her. It's biological. It's real deep down.
Oh, is it now, right? What moral principle are you applying when you're telling me, lecturing about what my duties are, right? What's the fucking moral principle behind that? Give me the fucking principle and how you get to it, right? Explain this fucking principle and how you got to it. Don't spout this fucking bullshit without philosopher, or stop calling yourself a philosopher and go hide in your corner, man, right? This is a fucking atrocious. Pisses me off, man, right? This guy, pretender, right? The fucking great pretender. I am the great pretender. Ooh.
Agree.
And you need to be able to deal with a wolf coming through the door. And if you're jumping on the chair...
What if the wolf looks like a woman with big tits, right? What's the principle? What's the fucking principle? And how did you get to it?
As a mouse, it's just going to make her ovaries turn into the Sahara Desert, right?
Right.
And
yeah, because Mr. Player, philosopher guy, Ekman, he can make them wet, right? Because he has, a wiener the size of a raisin, right? A dried raisin. 2 dried raisin and a twig, right? A twig the size of Socrates' nose. And same shape, possibly, right?
And it's going to be very hard for you to have the confidence and...
And when he wears those sandals, Mr. Martin, when he wears those sandals, he looks like Jesus, right? He's going to save the world. At least he's living with a couple of quality women, right? Fucking moron, man.
And authority to attract a strong woman, a moral woman, a quality woman, if that makes sense. So...
it's just about quality woman. Okay, I'm just reminded of a thing, Rhea. What was it about this Lauren Southern girl that apparently was so right-wing and all that, right? Apparently she got divorced from her so-called husband, the father of the child, because he was, whatever, right? She was basically Mrs. Perfect woman, wifey material, right-wing leaning, almost anarchist. But then, no, I'm divorcing. Yes. So, and you were traveling around the world showing off this woman with your big philosopher and right-wing bullshit. Fuck you, man, right? Your sense of quality is like at the bottom of the barrel, right? Because you don't have a fucking principle. It's just find a good woman. Yeah, but what the fuck does it mean that there's a good woman? How do I identify it? Right? Just because she wears a summer dress doesn't mean she's not a wolf in disguise, right?
Oh, if you want to stay with your family of origin, as you know, I've never told anyone to leave. It's not my choice, right? I need you to know the cost benefits.
Yeah, and this kind of honesty is what I seek from your show. Mm-hmm. It's helpful.
Oh my God, this caller, he's not the brightest star, right? This kind of honesty. But you were asking a question, and he has spent 1.5 hours not answering it. But instead, being the Spanish Inquisition about your private life and your childhood and your wanker situation, rather than answering your straight up question. Wake up for Christ's sake, Mr. Caller.
Well, it's honest. it's also true. And in particular cases, you provide proofs and such. And so this is why I'm here and why I continue to persist to learn and such.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, like, would you answer my question now, Mr. Philosopher? Would you fucking answer my question? Because it looks like it from the chaptering down here that defining moral principles, that it might be about actually defining moral principle. That would be interesting. Fucking interesting. Would you mind answering that question? Or, what about this moral principles debate? I have not heard anything remotely close to discussion or defining moral principles. Nothing for for 80 minutes, however long it took, but only delving into the caller's backstory and calling him basically a wanker, right? You are fucking atrocious, man.
Besides, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your sympathy. I'm very grateful, and I'm looking forward to just, listening to this over again because
that's what he wants to. He wants to Shanghai some new listeners. He pretends to answer a question, but he just lures you into this fucking cultish phenomenon, right? Where by not answering questions and by not saying you should think for yourself, but come to him his grandiose, self-absorbed narcissism and keep paying him money to not solve anything and not help anyone, right?
It's been very helpful.
And hopefully I didn't get the whole definition wrong. I appreciate it.
What definition? You did. I need to hear that one again. Sorry.
Grateful, and I'm looking forward to just, listening to this over again because it's been very helpful.
And hopefully I didn't get the whole definition wrong.
What definition? But there was no definition. I mean, maybe it was in between all these, in that psychology bit in the middle that I have to walk past. I hope not. And if somebody, my listener here, has actually went through that, and there is a moral principle discussion somewhere in that bit that I jumped over in order to get to the question or the answering of the moral principle question, please illuminate me. I don't think I want to sit through all that psychology shit where he might have squeezed in the definition of a moral principle and the philosophy behind it. If you have heard it and listened through that, please illuminate me, and I'll be happy to make a part 2 of this, right? But so far, this is the most atrocious kind of answering of a very important question. If this was like, my mommy always does this and I don't like it, could you help me? Okay, fine. If he doesn't answer that perfectly, I wouldn't care. But this is the fucking question of the ages. Since we fucking went out of the soup in the Cambrian explosion, in the Cambrian explosion, this is a question. And you're just stepping sideways into this bullshit. It's obnoxious. Right? Oh, fucking hate this guy, man, right?
Appreciate that, and thank you so much for dropping by. I hope you'll stay in touch. All right.
I want to send me some money because I don't answer questions.
Luke, Star Wars jokes will be eschewed.
What?
What is on your mind? Going once, I know it's been a long call, so maybe you've dropped off. Are you calling from an aquarium?
Hi, Stefan.
Yes.
I was up here with you last time, but Brad didn't plan to leave when I did. And we were talking about psychology.
Yeah,
And
I think I'll leave that one, right? This sounds like a bad connection also, right? Okay, so, I mean, what can I say about this? It's extremely, even if I didn't have my hopes up high, right? This is a fucking disappointment. And it's like, thank you for taking your time to say some words to me. This says a lot about the standards from the people and what he expects people to actually be able to do. This is the one-eyed king of the blind, right? The master of the midwits. I mean, it's like, what the fuck is going on down there, right? He doesn't answer the question. I mean, who made this list? It says defining moral principles. Nothing is being defined. And he starts talking about virtue and finding a woman and all that. What the hell is going on, man, right? You're supposed to be the greatest philosophy show on earth. I suppose you aren't anymore, but you used to be, or used to say that. It's not about the number of listeners, right? It's about the quality, I would say. But he's counting listeners, so he must be great, right? Not so much anymore. But I don't blame him for that, being kicked off YouTube and all that, right? But this is... If it was an attempt at being rigid and you weren't quite as rigid that I might suggest you should be, that would be more like fine. I mean, we're all trying to go, maybe not all, but those who are actually trying to do some philosophy is trying the best they can, and they may screw up here and there, and that's fine. But he's deliberately avoiding the question. And then, wrapping him in all this psychology bullshit, and then at the end pretending that he's answered the question. And the caller is, I'm happy now. It's just a fucking load of bullshit. Okay, enough. We have rounded the 2 hour mark, right? So please share, like, and subscribe, and consider donation QR code in the picture here, right? So please click, and if you think I deserve some encouragement for my hard work trying to take this idiot down, right? So until further, see you in the next one.